Students. Our meeting today is going to be about reading comprehension section. Before starting to read the article, I want to show you a short film as a warming up.
This week on London Real, we have Nelson Mandela's prison guard, Christo Brand.
When I arrived on Robben Island, we was informed we're going to meet the biggest criminals in the history of South Africa. I didn't know about Nelson Mandela at all, never heard the name before. African prisoners like Mandela was called boys. They only get short trousers, short sleeves, sandals. He asked me, Mr. Brandt, is it possible just to see the child through the window? I said, Mandela, it's not allowed. When I observed him, I see a disciplined man. I see a man which was quite intelligent. This was my prison warder. This guy was my friend on Robben Island.
Nelson Mandela.
You know, there was a lot of whites when Mandela was released. Said, no, why they released this man? He should have died in prison. But after a few years he's in power. That same people said when he stepped down, why they not kept Mandela longer in power?
London Real presents Nelson Mandela's prison guard.
He mentioned me as his friend when he introduced.
Now, as you saw in the film, our article today is going to be about the friendship between a prisoner and a prison guard. So the prisoner is Nelson Mandela and the prison guard is Christo Brandt. This is the reading comprehension section in your student box, page 70. So please, first of all, I'm going to read the article, then we will have some antonyms, synonyms, and we will answer some questions on this article. So I will read the article and please listen carefully. My prisoner, my friend, my president, and my father. In 1978, Christo Brand got a job in a prison. He was an 18-year-old white South African boy who had grown up on a farm. Now he was being set to work as a guard in the famous prison on Robben Island. There he was told he was going to watch over the biggest criminals in South African history, including political prisoners. Brand didn't know very much about politics. He just knew that he was going to be around some dangerous people. Then he met prisoner 46664, a quiet 60-year-old black man who started to talk to Brand and ask him questions about his family, his education, his plans for the future. Prisoner 46664 was Nelson Mandela, who would one day become the first black president of South Africa. There was no color barrier between us, said Brand, who later worked as a guide, showing tourists around Robben Island. Like me, Mandela came from a farm. We understood that we shared the same sky and the same air. The two men got along well and became quite close, although this wasn't allowed by the prison authorities. They had to keep their friendship secret and their conversations had to be short. Brand found that Mandela was a warm and thoughtful person, even a little shy sometimes. Mandela was also a generous man, and he never forgot his friend. When he became president, he got Brand a job. One day, at a meeting of important politicians, Brand was in the room and was putting documents on the table. When Mandela came in, he saw Brand, went to him and hugged him. Mandela looked at the people in the room and said, "This person was my warden. This person was my friend." Brand says that he felt very proud at that moment. Nelson Mandela died in December 2013 at the age of 95. Like so many people around the world, Brand was very sad when he heard the news. He said at that time, Mandela was my prisoner, my friend, my president, and my father. So this article is going to be about a relationship between two friends. The first one is the prisoner who was Nelson Mandela, And you know Nelson Mandela, he was the first black president for the South Africa, and the second one is the prison guard who was Christo Brand. إذا نتحدث النص اليوم اللي بين إيدينا عن العلاقة ما بين علاقة الصداقة التي كانت ما بين الرئيس الشمال إفريقيا نيلسون مانديلا وحارس السجن أو السجان كريستو براند. So before starting reading the article and looking at some synonyms and answer some questions, let's look at these slides. In this slide, you have to know that in this article, we will have some synonyms of some words. The first, for example, we have the word meaning in English and meaning in Arabic. The first word we have prisoner, which means a person who's confined in a jail because of criminal activities. Guard, warden, politics, governmental principles. Barrier means limit or obstacle. President, the leader of the country. Warden means guard. Prison authorities, policies. Prison, jail, or place where criminals are put. Criminals, person who committed a crime. In this slide, we have antonyms of some words. We have the word and the antonym. Biggest, tourists, generous, and brown. And these are the antonyms. Antonyms means the opposites of these words, العكس. And here in this slide, we have some questions. Before we have some questions, I'm going to read all these questions, and then we will answer these questions. The first one: where did the brand spend his childhood? So after reading the article, you have to answer these questions. Where did the brand spend his childhood? Number two: what kind of a prisoners was Brand told he's going to watch over? 3. What did the Brand and Mandela have in common? 4. Why did Mandela and the Brand have to keep their friendship secret? 5. What did Mandela do for Brand when he became president? So let's go back to this article. Let's read the article again and answer these questions. In 1978, Christo Brand got a job in a prison. So this is the first member of the relationship who is Christo Brand in a prison. He was an 18-year-old white South African boy who had grown up on a farm. As you can see here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences, and you have to complete these sentences. And from exercise number 3, you have read the article again and match the phrases A to G with spaces 1 to 6. There is one extra phrase that doesn't belong in the article, so you have to complete these sentences from exercise number 3. So one here is with C, which is who had grown up on a farm. So he was an 18-year-old white South African boy. He here, the pronoun he refers to Christo Brand. Of course, he here refers to a Christo Brand. So who's a Christo Brand? Here we have the first question: where did the Brand spend his childhood? So the first question: where did the Brand spend his childhood? And the answer is he was an 18-year-old white South African boy who had grown up on a farm. So who had grown up on a farm, that means that he spent his childhood in South Africa in a farm. Now he was being sent to work as a guard in the famous prison on Robben Island. He here also refers to Christo Brand. He was being sent to work as a guard. Guard means warden, and اللي هو معناته حارس السجن أو السجان in the famous prison in Robben Island. في Robben Island, and there he was told he was going to watch over the biggest criminals in South African history, including political prisoners. So if we go back to question number 2, here we have what kind of prisoners was Brand told he was going to watch over. ما هو النوع من السجناء الذي أخبر براند أنه سوف يقوم بحراسته. So watch over means يحرس أو يعتني به. Here we have there He was told he was going to watch over the biggest criminals in South African history, including political prisoners, بما في ذلك السجناء المتعلقين بقضايا سياسية. Brand didn't know very much about politics. لم يعرف الكثير عن السياسة. He just knew that he was going to be around some dangerous people. Then he met a prisoner. Here we have he also refers to Christo Brand. He met a president number 46664. And who's that president? Of course, he's Nelson Mandela, a quite 60-year-old black man who started to talk to Brand and ask him questions. So who here we have who. And we said in the previous unit that we have some relative pronouns such as who, where, whose, what, and when. Here we have who. So he is who is a relative pronoun, refers to the old black man, and who is Nelson Mandela. So who started to talk to Brand and ask him some questions. So what kind of questions did Nelson Mandela ask Christo Brand? Here we have questions about his family, his education, his plans for the future, عن عائلته وتعليمه وخططه من أجل المستقبل. Prisoner 4666 was Nelson Mandela. So who was the prisoner number 4666? He was Nelson Mandela, who would one day become the first black president of South Africa. And so who's Nelson Mandela? He was the first black president for South Africa. أول رئيس أسود لشمال إفريقيا. Here we have also the relative pronoun who. It refers to Nelson Mandela. Next paragraph we have, there was no color barrier between us. So there was no obstacles, no problems. لم يكن هناك أي حواجز or limits, عوائق بالألوان بين كلا الشخصين. Between us. Here we have us refers of course to the the first president, who was Nelson Mandela, and Christo Brand, said Brand, who later worked as a guide showing tourists around Robben Island. So number 2 here is with number D, showing tourists around Robben Island. كان يعمل كدليل سياحي حتى يظهر أو يطلع السياح على المنطقة على Robben Island. Like me, Mandela came from a farm. So like me, Mandela came from a farm. We understood that we share the same sky and the same air. So if we go back to question number 3, what did Brand and Mandela have in common? بمعنى ما هو الشيء المشترك بين مانديلا وبراند? So the answer is that they both came from a farm. كلاهما جاءوا من المزارع أي فلاحين. We understood that we shared and they shared the same sky and the same air. So this is the answer of question number 3. The two men got along well and became quite close. And here we have the answer of number 3 is G, although this wasn't allowed by the prison authorities. So they became friends, although this wasn't allowed by the prison authorities, على الرغم من أنه كان غير مسموح به في سياسة السجون to become close friends. They refers to Nelson Mandela, Christo Brand, they had to keep their friendship secret and their conversations had to be short. Brand found that Mandela was a warm and thoughtful person, even a little shy sometimes. So number 4 here is A, even a little shy sometimes. Now let's go back to question number 4. Why did Nelson Mandela and Brand have to keep their friendship secret? So what's the reason behind keeping their friendship secret? The reason is that this wasn't allowed by the prison authorities لأنه لم يكن مسموح به في سياسة السجون تكوين علاقات أو صداقات قريبة. The next paragraph we have, Mandela was also a generous man. Generous means كريم, شخص كريم, and he never forgot his friend. When he became president, he got Brand a job. So here we have a question number 5. In question number 5 we have, what did Mandela do for Brand when he became president? And the answer is he got Brand a job. Yes, so he got Brand a job. And In this paragraph, we have one day at a meeting of important politicians. رجال السياسة. This is what part of the speech is politicians. It's a noun. It's a noun and means رجال السياسة. Brand was in the room and was putting documents on the table. And when Mandela came in, he saw Brand, went to him and hugged him because they were friends. Mandela looked at all the people in the room and said, number 5, in number 5 we have F. And this person was my warden, and warden means the guard, الحارس, حارس السجن. This person was my friend. Brand says that he felt very proud at that moment. شعر بالفخر في تلك اللحظة. Last paragraph. Nelson Mandela died in December 2013. توفي في December 2013 at the age of 95 عن عمر يناهز 95. Like so many people around the world, Brand was very sad when he heard the news. عندما سمع بتلك الأخبار. He said at that time, Mandela was my prisoner, my friend, my president, and my father. So this is the title of our article today, that Mandela was my prisoner, my friend, my president, and my father. So thank you for listening carefully. Next time or today, I will send to you a worksheet, a new account, a new space. So please check in and make sure that you understand this article. سوف أقوم اليوم بإرسال أوراق حمل إن شاء الله عبر حساباتكم على موقع نور سبيس. أرجو المتابعة. شكرا لكم.